PFC, Virginia May Tomlin Davis, United States Army, World War II. Folks, another gem of a story that's been sitting around almost 20 years here in my office. Virginia is featured in my Women in War documentary, and she was just a great lady. I met her, she was 85 years old, up in North Lewisburg, Ohio, of all places. Only time I went to North Lewisburg, Ohio. I had a great time there that week interviewing veterans before Christmas. In 2007, I interviewed Jenny, I call her Jenny, on December 13th, 2007. And she was 85. She passed away almost 90 years of age in 2012, and buried in a local area, a local cemetery. I think it's Maple Cemetery there in North Lewisburg. So, but Jenny, she enlisted at the age of 21 into the Women's Auxiliary Corps. And then they became part of the Army, and she actually served as a telephone operator. You may think, oh well, no, these are great stories. When these women come forth and tell their stories, it's awesome. I just love these stories. And she served with the 311th Signal Corps, which is part of the 2nd Air Division, the 8th Air Force, and she's in the Army now. But she was around D-Day. When D-Day happened, she told me some great things about that. You know, in communications, you're going to hear a lot of stuff. You're going to be around a lot of things. In fact, on December 7th, 1941, when Pearl Harbor was attacked, she was on a switchboard, and all that information started coming over the switchboard into the community there. So that's how she first heard about Pearl Harbor. But just a great lady, a great story, and told a great story about a man that she was going to marry that was killed. I'll let her tell the story. But anyway, she went on to live a long, prosperous life, and it was just such a pleasure and an honor to interview her. And I'm happy to share her story with you today. I want to thank Angie Simmons and Rita Schultz, both of you ladies, for helping make possible some of these female stories. And I just want to thank you both. Thank you for your patriotism. Thank you for your support of my work and our veterans. And just God bless both of you. I just hope you're doing well. Angie, hope Terry's doing well. And Rita, hope things are good in Texas. So God bless both of you. Thank you. Folks, if you'd like to become a part of my work, there's information in the video description, in the comment section of the videos, and on my website, larrycapetto.com. I would encourage you to go forth and maybe become a partner with me, help bring some of these stories forth. It's a good, feel-good feeling. If you have somebody in your family that is no longer with us and has served in the military and you want to honor them, you can do so by becoming a partner and sponsoring another story. And I'd be happy to share some information about them. Okay, folks, that's it. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. Alvin, if you're still out there, I don't know, I haven't heard from him for a while. Hoping for 100,000 subscribers this year. We'll see if we get there. And just thank you for sharing these videos. And history is best learned from those who are there, folks. And this station is so important, especially in the day that we live. We're fighting for the same freedoms in our own country that our veterans fought for on foreign soil. So let's honor Virginia right now with this story. And like I said, thank you for watching and listening. Voices of History Radio, her story will be on there 24 hours a day. You can download an app for free, Voices of History Radio. All the stories here are on the radio station. God bless you. All right, let's talk about you. How's that? That's okay. Interesting. How old are you now, Jenny?
85.
Okay. What now? Give me some history about your service in the military. Were you drafted? Were you enlisted? How did you get involved in the military? That's the Army, right?
Yes. Well, I enlisted in the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps in June of 43.
Okay.
Then in September the 1st of 43, by act of Congress, we were inducted into the regular Army.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. Do you need those glasses on for the fit?
No.
I've got a glare. Is that okay? You okay like
Fine.
that? Okay.
Hide them under my hat.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that's a lot better. There we go. So how old were you then when you were drafted?
I was 21 when I enlisted.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I wanted to enlist when I was 18,
And you were in the Army.
Army.
And did you go to like basic training somewhere?
Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
Was
yeah.
was it tough?
Yes, very tough.
Like for the men, it was tough too.
But it wasn't as tough for the women because the men had more.
And what was your job, your MOS? What was your assignment at that time?
A telephone operator.
Okay. And so after your training, where did you go? Did you stay in the States?
I stayed at Fort Oglethorpe until January of 44
Okay.
on the switchboard.
And then where did you go?
And then I was given orders one night to pack my bags and not tell anybody where I was going. In 24 hours, I was shipped out of my company and put in an overseas outfit.
And where did you end up overseas?
In Norwich, Ketteringham Hall, England,
And that was 44? What year was that?
February 44.
Okay. So tell me what you did over there and what your responsibilities were with the job that you had.
I was a telephone operator in the 315th Signal Corps, 2nd Air Division, 8th Air Force.
Tell me what that entailed as far as communications and what you did.
Well, we were in contact with all air bases in England, all of them. It was quite an experience for me because
Well, tell me what you enjoyed about your work and then maybe the most difficult part about what you did.
well, I enjoyed my work because I liked telephone operator. I was on a switchboard here in North Lewisburg on December the 7th in 41.
Tell me about that day, what you remember and
I was working on the switchboard that morning, right here in North Lewisburg, when Pearl Harbor was bombed. And all the drops on the switchboard fell. I couldn't answer them because I didn't have enough cords. That was quite traumatic for me. And at that time, I made up my mind I was going to enlist. But I couldn't enlist till I was 21.
what do you think? Well, okay, let me ask, how did you originally find out about Pearl Harbor? It came through the phones or, I mean,
Well, the drops kept falling, and I went in on a line to try to get to an outside line, and I couldn't, and someone told me that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. And I just sat there and tried my best to answer and it was an old-fashioned telephone switchboard, and the drops fell. You had no lights or anything, so
that was here.
that was here.
Wow.
And then when I was in England, on the switchboard, on June the 8th, 44,
Tell me about what happened then. And of course, the landing was 2 days prior.
yeah. We were there that night, all night. We had the switchboard was full of operators, and the chief operator was there, and we knew then that something was up.
Did you know anything about D-Day before that event?
No, wasn't told about it.
How about after it happened?
Oh, yes.
What were you hearing was happening? What do you remember about D-Day?
Well, I remember most going back from the switchboard to the barracks. And when we got back to the barracks, we turned the radio on, and the Germans were yelling, "Invasion, invasion," in France. And the airplanes were rendezvousing above us. B-24s is where I was, B-24s, but the B-17s and B-24s were all rendezvousing, getting ready to go out. It was something to hear.
You still remember that? Is that still fresh in your mind?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so you knew something was up as far as
Yes, we could tell.
Allied forces landing?
Yes, we knew then.
Back to Pearl Harbor, December 7th here. I've talked to some survivors from Pearl Harbor that were actually there, but did you know what Pearl Harbor was when you heard that? Did you know that was in
Well, I knew of a young man that was stationed there that I went to school with up east, but I never heard from him after that, whether he made it or not.
So when did it really sink in of what happened and that it was going to thrust us into war? I mean, immediately did the country
Yes,
feel
it did.
that?
It did to me because I was on the board, the switchboard, and it was quite traumatic because I was by myself. There was no one in the building but me. The building's still up there. I got a picture of it. Show it to my grandkids.
So that prompted something inside of you to want to enlist.
Right, it did.
How about other people at that time, men and women? Did they feel the same responsibility to serve their country, or how do you?
I think mostly did because we had several women from here that left. All of them are gone, but two of us.
Now, in history, I don't know, you don't seem to hear as much about women in the military as you do the men. But were there a lot of women at World War II that went in at that time? I mean, when you were.
We had a company of over 160 women in just our company, headquarters company, and 2nd Division, and I'm sure there were as many at 1st and 3rd Divisions, 8th Air Force.
What do you remember about the attack of Pearl Harbor as far as fear? I mean, were you fearful? Did you have knowledge of the Japanese or ask questions why? I mean, we were attacked. I mean, is that just the way you felt?
Yes, yes, very traumatic.
How did that contrast with what happened on September 11th, 2001? Or can you compare it?
Well,
Did you feel the same way when the thing happened in New York City?
oh yes, I thought that was terrible, yeah. But I thought we were more prepared for cleaning up and that because it was terrible.
Did you lose any friends during the war that were killed or wounded, men or women that you knew of?
I've never told this, but I told my children, I think. I would have been married to a young man from Milford Center who was killed in Italy in a parachute jump, choked him to death. But
You mean you would have married him if he was?
I would, yes, we would have been married if he'd come back and I'd have come back.
So you heard about this news after
No.
it happened, or what?
I was overseas and I received this big envelope, brown envelope, at the headquarters office, and he had been killed.
And you went on from there, and you
I went
eventually
on.
did get married.
Yes, I have been married, yeah. Married a friend of his.
So on D-Day, let's talk about that again. You were on the switchboard that day. You said June 8th.
Yes,
Now, was that in England?
yes.
Okay. And you saw the planes overhead. Were you around any of the troops that were marshaled in that area getting
No.
ready to go?
Most of the troops, I think, were marshaled in the southern part of England. We were in the north on the North Sea coast.
What were your thoughts about Hitler and the Nazis and the Germans?
I can't stand to look at his face. I feel sorry for some of the German people because when I was in the hospital in London, there were two German prisoners that worked in the cafeteria. One was a 65-year-old man, the other was a 16-year-old boy. And I wasn't supposed to thank him for pouring my coffee, but I thanked him anyhow. Because the young man told me that he didn't want to fight. And he was 16 years old. That was sad.
I've heard that the German people, if they knew what Hitler was doing, they were ashamed to be called Germans because of what he did, and just the shame that came from that. Did you have any knowledge of the concentration camps during World War II?
Yes, I came back on a hospital ship with several that had been in concentration camps.
Did you talk with them or see them? What do you remember about the conversation? I mean,
Oh, some of them. One young man had jaundice pretty bad, and he had had lice. and they had shaved his head. And he was real thin, but he was trying to play football with some other guys, and we called him Curly. And he came back on the ship with me. But he was so happy because his parents had been notified that he was killed. And when he got to the States, when we landed in Charleston, South Carolina, he called his parents, and I think it was Massachusetts. So, yes, I saw quite a few of them.
So you came back on a hospital ship.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of wounded people on there.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the communications with you said the 8th Air Force?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what were you talking to ground crew or just, how were you?
No.
Explain to me again the communication that you were involved with.
Just telephone from department to department. And when they would have, say, a top-rank officer wanted to talk to another top-rank officer, we put them on a scramble, and nobody could hear them. But I had no conversation with any of them, only just telling me where they wanted me to go.
And what city were you in again?
Norwich.
Okay. Is that right on the English Channel there? Where's that?
Mm-hmm. Almost on the channel. Well, no, it's on the North Sea, up in the...
How much information, though, again, were you receiving as far as, after D-Day, the march into France and then to Germany? I mean, were you following this progression as it went on, the Battle of the Bulge and all that happened?
Oh, yes, yes. We got papers, Stars and Stripes. I had several.
Was that a daily, weekly? What was that?
Yes.
Weekly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where were you when the war ended? Right there?
Right there.
Can you tell me that day and when you heard the news and then how everybody reacted to that?
Well, I think everybody practically got lit. No, everybody was excited.
Did you know it was coming?
Well, we felt like it was, but...
How did you actually hear the news? Who told you, or how did you hear it?
I can't remember. I think it just spread through the company. Probably the first sergeant told us, I don't know.
Did you just throw up your hands and
Oh, yeah.
come home?
Rum and Coke.
Rum and Coke. Huh?
Rum and Coke.
Did you hear that, Sylvia?
I did.
Okay. Well, I can only imagine, you see pictures, of course I wasn't alive then, but that had to have been just an amazing time. I mean,
It
having
was.
the war ending, do you think our country's forgetting about World War II and what happened today? Are we forgetting these things?
Oh, yes, yes. I think so. There's so many things that they used to do that they don't anymore. On Memorial Day, we used to have Gettysburg Address, and they don't even have hardly anything anymore.
Do you think our kids are learning about it in schools, or is there much in the schools anymore?
Well, I do know that here at Triad, there is one teacher in the middle school who teaches a lot about World War II because I've been to her class.
Good. Maybe we'll meet her tomorrow.
I hope you do. I hope she can meet you.
How about your own recollection of these things? Are these memories fading, or are they pretty vivid in your mind still about World War II?
Some of them are pretty vivid.
What about did you have a camaraderie with the other women? I mean, like the men have a lot of camaraderie. Did you feel that with the women?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I still have a lot of friends. We still have reunions every year, 2nd Air Division. I haven't been able to go for the last 10 years, but
What was your rank at that time?
private first class. I have an interesting story I'd like to tell.
Go ahead.
When we used to get an egg and an orange about once a month. So one morning I was going to work on the switchboard, and we walked down the path to the castle where we had our headquarters. And there were people that lived there in the houses, and this little boy was walking out, and he came out to me, and he asked me what I had in my hand. I told him I had an orange. He'd never seen one. He was about 4 or 5 years old. So I gave it to him. In 1987, we went back to Ketteringham Hall, where we had our headquarters, and we were being greeted by different people, and there was this young couple came up and said they would take us back to the barracks and show us around. So we were walking back, and I said, well, I gave a little boy that orange, and he said I was that little boy.
Wow.
And his name was George. And he and his wife showed us around then, and I thought that was pretty nice. He still lives there.
Is that right? Were you around any of the combat or the bombings or anything going on during the time? What do you remember?
My first encounter with bombing was in London when I was at telephone school. We were close to Buckingham Palace, so they tried to raid that quite a bit. But we had air raids, and that was my first encounter with an air raid.
Well, describe that. There's sirens. I mean,
Oh, yes.
Explosions.
Yeah, I could hear them. We went down into the air raid shelter there in the building. We lived in, they said it was Mary Astor's old home, was our billets. And Lord Halifax's house was our mess hall. So it was close to the palace. But that worried me the most was the buzz bombs and the V2s that the Germans sent over. Because you could hear them when they were going over, but when they shut off, you don't know whether they're going to fall on you or who. And they fell around us.
Did that happen periodically? I mean,
Yes.
Yeah. Be a lot of anxiety about that, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah. And it was generally at night.
Is that what they call a blackout? When they say blackout, what does that mean?
A blackout and then
Is that a term?
no light.
Okay. All right. But you can remember those bombing raids then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
V2, you mentioned a V2, that's a bomb.
A V2, well, it's like a rocket.
Yeah.
And they did send, used to be, they called them buzz bombs at first. And then they must have made them better because they called them V2s after that. But if you could hear them, they sound like a bunch of motorcycles running around. Terrible. They weren't very far up either.
So you could have been bombed easily then, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful.
How many months were you over in Europe there?
12, 15. 16 months.
Do you feel like the military and the experience that you had changed you as a young person? I mean,
Oh,
made
yes.
you a better person? How?
Oh, made me appreciate what I have. I don't need a lot. I'm just contented the way I am. Made me appreciate. I have been putting flags on the cemetery I'm 85 years old. I was 16 when I started, and I've done it ever since, only but the 2.5 years I was in the service. But my son's doing it now because I can't tramp around. Used to be very few flags. Now there's so many. So many flags.
I'm going to jump ahead a bit, but that was one of my questions. You know, as a veteran and as a citizen of this country, Jeannie, what does the American flag mean and represent to you?
Means a great deal. I get upset if it isn't hung right. I get upset if I see a torn flag on the pole. I just respect the flag.
What does freedom mean to you as a veteran? What does that mean to you to have freedom?
Oh. I'm just thankful that I'm living here as a citizen. I don't understand why people don't appreciate the freedom of this country.
What about the price for freedom? I mean, men and women died, were wounded during the war and the wars that we fought. What would you tell a young person today about the price or the cost of freedom that we have?
Well, I think a lot of it's an individual thing. A lot of some wars I don't agree with, and my sons both been in the service. My husband was in, so we all feel like it's an important thing to protect our country. But, I'm just a patriotic person, I guess.
I think sometimes it's hard to communicate that to a younger person who's born in a free country and has never not had freedom. That's my experience as I travel
Yes.
and talk to people, that to get them to realize that it came at a great price.
Sure did, because it could have come here. That was the thing. World War II was somewhere else, and it wasn't in the United States. And the people do not realize. A lot of people do not realize what it would be. There's a lady up at Bell Fountain that was in the Holocaust, in a nursing home up there. Would never talk about it for a while, but she finally talked to my daughter and I about it. And she's so thankful to be here.
What did she say about the Holocaust? I mean,
She just said that they were mean to her and she didn't want to talk about it anymore. So. Just a young girl.
Tell me again about your work as an operator, what you enjoyed most about your work.
I just enjoyed the company, the people I worked with, and knowing what we were doing was helping. I always enjoyed being a telephone operator, so.
Is that what you did after the war too, did you say?
Yes, I came back here and worked for a while till they put in the automatic. And then I put the last plug in, and then I did something else. Worked High Orchard for a while, and then I went to work the hospital. So.
And again, I asked you this earlier, but reiterate again about the difficult tasks. What was the hardest part of your job that you had to do? The most difficult part of what you did?
Telephone operating, or what? It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, or just the war itself. I mean, was there something that was harder for you than
Yes.
not?
When we landed in Scotland, they shipped us to a place called Stone. And we were kept there for a few days to get our orders where we were going. The hardest thing for me was writing on the, they gave us a mail of men and women that had been killed, and we had to write deceased on it. I think that was the hardest thing I ever did.
Can you tell me about the Gold Star Mothers and what the different colors of the stars represented?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not aware of their. I know who they are, and
And why they placed the stars in the windows and all that? You've heard these stories.
oh well, yeah. My daughter has stars in her window. She has 2 sons in Iraq. I have a grandson in Iraq, 2 grandsons in Iraq.
You do right now?
One. No, they're both back now, but they've been there twice.
Where do they live?
One lives in Indiana, One is still in. He's in Mesa, Arizona.
The reason I asked was I'm interviewing some of those coming back from Iraq. I'm always interested in where they're at, if they want to talk. So you might mention that to them sometime.
I will.
I do get to Arizona occasionally, but I think it's important, for history's sake. What do you think our country should remember about World War II, Ginny?
Oh, I think they should remember the sacrifice that people made. Not just over there, but people back here made sacrifices. My father made a lot of sacrifices. People had to go without.
Well, expound just a bit about that. I agree with you. The rationing, everything that was going on. I mean, the sacrifices, you're right, at home and abroad.
Yeah. That was something.
You heard the World War II generation referred to as the greatest generation.
Yes, I have.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. That's the one I'm in. Yeah.
What do you think it was about your generation that was, I don't know, better, different than maybe even today? What do you think? And everybody was united behind the war effort, as we don't see that anymore. Why do you think that is?
I don't think people are. We did it to protect us. I mean, the war effort in World War II, everybody was for the country. But right now, I don't think everybody is for what we're doing. And I think that's a reason for the difference.
What do you think changed to cause that to happen?
I'm not sure.
Because it is different, don't you think?
Oh, yes, very much different. Yes. I have my opinions, but
What do you want your family to remember about you someday when you're gone?
oh, that I was a jolly person and just
How old do you think you're going to live to? How old do you want to be? Did you ever think you'd be 85?
no.
Does it just creep up on you and all of a sudden? you
It's
wake up
creeping
one day?
fast too.
You look good. You look like you're strong. and
I'll be 86 in April.
Wow.
No, I hope my family remembers me as a good person. I always tried to be a. They know that when they put the flags out in the cemetery, and my son and his family, they know how to put them out, and they say, "Mom says don't run in the cemetery." So.
You've got like a little medal box or shadow box there. What's in there? Are there medals, awards, decorations,
Yeah.
badges? You don't need to get them, but I'm just curious what's in there. Is there?
One of them is a WAAC. It was when I was in the Auxiliary Army Corps. They gave us those pins when we enlisted. And then the other, I think, is my private first class thing. My good conduct medal, which I did get one. The WAAC medal. It's a green and yellow one.
Why
and
did
the
you
other-
get the good conduct medal?
I guess because I behaved. Got to laugh out somebody, didn't? Got to laugh out somebody, didn't they?
When you see pictures of yourself back during that time, what goes through your head? What are you thinking? I mean, does it seem like 60 years ago? Does it seem like yesterday sometimes?
Sometimes it seems like yesterday. You don't forget a lot of things. They creep back in your mind.
Do you mostly have good memories of the war, or are they bad memories?
I have good memories. The bad ones I try to forget.
Can I ask what a bad memory would be?
Well, when I came home, I wasn't treated very nice.
Why is that?
Well, women in the service during World War II, people had bad name for them. They didn't respect them. I would say that out of a company of 160 some women, in my company, we had 2 bad women that carried on and made a bad name for us. But I wasn't well when I came home. I had a nervous mental collapse after Germany surrendered. And when I came home, I wasn't well. And I didn't get out much. But when I was home on leave from the hospital in August, when Japan surrendered, and there was a black man by the name of Henry Scruggs, who was a World War I veteran, was standing uptown. And when I heard the news that they surrendered, I started running from my folks' home up to the fire hall. And Henry was standing out there, and he said, "Come on, Jenny, come on, let's ring the bell." And we broke the bell that was on the fire department. We cracked it. He wanted me to help him ring the bell, so.
Now, did you have that collapse because of the war, or
Yes.
what do you think caused that? I mean, I'm curious.
Well, they had told us they were going to move us again. They were going to move us, separate all of us, and send us, some of us, to Germany. I didn't want to go, and I'd lost quite a bit of weight. So I only weighed 89 pounds. And so they put me in the hospital, and then they sent me to London, to a general hospital. I came back on a hospital ship, the Wisteria, to Charleston.
That's that picture I saw.
Mm-hmm. That's where I saw some of my friends that met some of the prisoners.
That were prisoners of war?
Yes.
Did you talk to many of them either, too?
I talked to some of them, especially Curly. He was so excited about coming home. We landed in Charleston, South Carolina, and then they said, "Well, we're going to ship you close to home so you can see your parents." Well, they didn't do that with me. They shipped me to Coral Gables, Florida. I felt like jumping off the train, but down there, that's where I saw the women from Bataan Death March, and that was just, oh, that was terrible. And some of the prisoner men who had tuberculosis, they had their own private swimming pool because of their disease, but that was.
What do you know about the Bataan Death March?
Well, I've read about it a lot. I've seen a lot of it. There's a couple shows. Claudette Colbert plays in one of the girls in the Philippines, and talking about it. There's different documentaries that I've seen. But these women were, how they ever survived, I'll never know. They borrowed clothes off of some of the nurses so they could go out and walk around the building. So.
That's a pretty gruesome story. I mean, what happened with that?
Yes. Now it was very sad to see these girls. So.
Are you proud that you're a World War II veteran?
I'm sure am.
Do you wear that hat around, or you just carry
Yeah, I wear it once in a while.
Yeah. Do people thank you for your service?
Yes.
How do you feel when they do that?
Well, I feel very grateful because the man that's going to have your lunch, he's always doing something for World War II veterans. Well, other veterans too, but he has a special, some reason special.
I think it's important that you tell your stories and that our younger generation learns some of these things so they can, better appreciate what they have in our country.
Yes, because They have far so much more than we had. I'm thankful that I did. I'm very thankful.
I don't, like I said, I don't have the opportunity to talk to a lot of women, not that I don't want to, just I don't find as many of them. So when I found out you were going to be here today, I was excited to talk to you. That picture, is that a Liberator, that plane there? What am I?
Yes, at the B-24. That was with our division, 2nd Air Division, 8th Air Force.
Did you talk with the pilots at all, these or the crews of these planes?
Not-
An opportunity to.
Not until the war was over, and we took a trip over Germany in one of the bombers. It was so funny, trying to get a parachute to fit me.
Did you parachute out of a plane?
No, but they made us wear one.
Okay.
I couldn't have jumped anyhow. I jumped right out of it. It was a back chute. They couldn't get the straps long enough, so.
That Stars and Stripes story that says Germany quits, that's an original that you kept, huh?
Yes.
Who would have thought 60-some years later we'd be sitting here and you would have brought that into this room?
I never thought about it.
You talk much about the war and what happened, or is it something you don't?
Only to people that have been in. And my children sometimes will ask me questions.
How about when you were asked to do this today? How did you feel about that?
Honored.
Maybe you told me things, I guess you told one story, but maybe you've never told anybody before?
Mm-hmm.
How many children do you have?
4.
Where do they all live?
See, one of them lives in Sunbury and the other side of Delaware. And two of them live here, and one lives in Tennessee. And I have quite a range of nieces, nephews, sisters and brothers. All my brothers and sisters are still alive.
Have you been to the World War II Memorial in Washington?
No, but I'm on the honor flight. I'll probably get to go this spring.
Really? Got your name on that?
Mm-hmm. Bob Davis and I got our names on.
Good. Well, I think that's about all my questions for you, but at the end of my interview, I always have the veteran give me a salute into the camera. When I ask you from where you're seated, can you do that for me?
Sure.
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, Jenny, look right into the camera, give me a salute.